Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be building another character. I know what I labeled the playlist, but I got very busy working on my campaign, I'll admit. Beyond this, today's character, we're continuing along the Untitled theme at this point because I've been still going nuts over it, frankly, for this. In particular, we'll be creating a character which is a little bit harder to create. A character which is not too much known about, at least in the base game as far as my knowledge. Well, as far as I have knowledge of. But doing so, going over several different bases of things which the character is thought to be able to do. Today we'll be going and actually creating Gaster from the Untitled series. In short, I do have a mock-up build. If I can actually work quickly. I do have a mock-up build, to tell the truth, that I'm using as a good basis. In short, what it is a build I made to begin with using a bunch of homebuild rules that me and my table actually use, and in doing so, using certain things that are third-party, whatnot. So with that all in mind, I'm not going to be using the third-party shit to begin with. I'm going to be trying to use this as best of my abilities going off of core Pathfinder. So with that in mind, I will be still using the point buy system. For a reminder, it's no higher than level 10. Not allowed to use templates unless ultimately have to. For certain characters like Gaster, for example, Sands and Papyrus would have to have the Skeletal Champion template. Beyond that, no magical items are being allowed to be used. We have to use the point buy system. I believe I said that just now. And in doing so, no third party, if at all possible, frankly. Because if this is being done, it should be able to do it without all this other bullshit filtering in. So, with that being said, let's get to it. I'm sorry if it looks a little bit weird with the way that it's laid out still. I'm still working on this entirely now. Once again, still no face cam because of the aspect of I don't feel that is required when I'm building a character. If anything, it's less of seeing a reaction of how I'm building the character in comparison to playing a game. With that, you get to see the actual reaction of actually playing the game itself. If anything funny happens, surprises me, whatnot. But for this, we're going to go over to a couple different things. First off, we're going to go over to the ability scores because I still have yet to get used to the point buy system. Beyond this, I do have a general idea of what to do. Let's see, will it be faster to find it this way, or apparently not. There we go. Okay. The template is very simplistic as it is to begin with. This will be, because it is a CR plus 1, it will be the cumulative for the effective level. This being made mention, the limitation is still level 10, even if you are using templates, which is taking fucking forever to load up. There we go. So let's pull up what I believe would actually fit best. Let's see. We're going to go with the Blood Arcanist. In particular, I believe the Blood Arcanist would actually fit best in this case. Being an intelligence-based caster, and the fact Gaster is known to be, once again, just like Alpha as being the royal scientist, it introduces a bunch of unique abilities. Now, that's the reason for Arcanist. Now, for the Blood Arcanist in particular, is all because of the Bloodline features. Now, some may think go with the Undead Bloodline because of the entire skeletal theme. That's what we're going with the template. Now, for this in particular, it's not really known what his base race originally was in this case. We know it was a skeleton, and I'm assuming because of the entire aspect of there being humans in this world, whatnot, I'm assuming at this point human would be the best option, even though if we really want to get technical, Sands is kind of short. So, all in all, I think that'd be best. Looks like I'm going to need the skeleton template anyway, so let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. Do we have anything else that's required for this? Oh yeah, the Bloodline in particular is one thing. I do believe that if we're talking about Bloodline in particular, there's one Bloodline out of all of them that actually fits the most. Let's see here. Just make it quicker. Okay. Age really does not matter when you're immortal, so we're going to leave the age blank. Height, weight really doesn't matter for this entire character build, so we're going to leave that out entirely. Shift this over to make things easier with Skeletal Champion. Okay. So I'm going to use the base race of that of a human for now. If anybody wants to argue it, please do, if I can actually type correctly. Okay. With this in mind, we now have everything open that is required. I'm just going to shift it over to make it easier, since race at this point is going to be coming first, even though this does augment the race a lot. Base traits obviously are still allowed, 2 starting traits, just as a mention. And we're going to go size of medium. I'm going to leave gender out of this because it really does not matter. Homeland does not matter for this case. D does not matter. I believe it gave alphas an alignment. In this case, I would believe he'd be more neutral in this case. The entire aspect of trying to find a way, if I remember correctly, trying to find a way of being able to actually bring about the resurrection of monsters and doing so. It sounds more and more, at least for the way he'd be able to do it, would be that of necromancy. So I think neutral would be best, because the fact is trying to do something evil for the purpose of betterment of his kind, whatnot, the monsters. Neutral would be best because I have no idea what alignment should be. But we're going to put this simply as a Blood Arcanist. Now, I think if we really want to get technical, because if we go down here to spontaneous generation, you gain Craft Wonders as a bonus feat at 3rd level. So that introduces a lot of really interesting things we can do. Which I forgot to open up the Arcane, so I always forget something whenever I'm working on a character like this. Okay, so let's start very simply. We know he's going to be a skeleton. We're going to leave this out of here for a moment until we get to effective level. We're going to start off with the ability scores. Where's the point by? Standards 15, so in doing so, we have the chart simply here. Starting off base at 10 for every score. Okay. Going 10. Now, the reason why I'm trying to avoid using templates as much as possible, because it really unbalances a character creation like this, even though some characters cannot be avoided. So, okay, then we have 15 points to spend. Let me open up a calculator, because I'm going to need this by the time this is done. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we have our 15 points. As it makes mention here, it fluctuates very simplistically. Okay, let's see. We know he has a high intelligence, an extraordinarily high intelligence, actually. Believe he would have a lot of craft feats, so in doing so, spellcraft would be fairly high. The knowledge of the arcane arts would be a lot higher as well. Knowledge of monsters, whatnot. Let's start off with the intelligence. That's going to be the highest score. Let's simply... Okay, let's see. Make it a 14 here. So we subtract 5 points from here, so we have an intelligence of 14. Changes to a 16 thanks to our human racial +2. This in mind, we still have plenty of ability scores to deal with. Dexterity is not really going to be a big issue, because thanks to the Skeletal Champion template, we do get a handful of additional things. We get a bonus to strength and dexterity, but we don't get too much else. As listed in here, we will have primary claw attacks, whatnot, I believe, at least, skimming over. Yeah, the only thing is they don't have a constitution score. The charisma says it's base 10, meanwhile this here does not, because the fact is they are intelligent creatures. So, with that in mind, let's continue on with the point buy system. As an arcanist, you have to have a decent charisma, at least. So, with this all being in mind, I really think that, yeah, honestly, subtract another 5 from here to go into charisma would be best. To make this a 14, so we have an average charisma. Constitution is not gonna matter, so scratch that out entirely. So charisma is both for hit points and for a lot of our class abilities. So we wiped out one score entirely, which is phenomenal at this point. We have 5 points, which we can actually spend in a handful of ways. We can increase one ability score by 3. And 1 by 2, which would be best. I think strength would be increased by 2 for this case. No, thinking about it, wisdom would be very viable as well. So we're going to actually put his wisdom being that of a 12. So we subtract another 2 from this total. We have 3. My best option would be to put 1 inside of... No, let's just leave strength at a 10. Logically here, being a spellcaster or scientist in this case, be best just leave that as is. 3 would make that a 13 for the dex. Okay, now the reason why I'm going Arcanist instead of going Alchemist is because the fact that Scientist may be in the name, but the fact is what is thought to be able to be done is more akin, in my opinion, to this. Always being known to be the one who talks in hands, being able to deliver touch spells with, like, incorporeal hands and shit would actually be very viable. So, we have completed the ability scores. Now let's hop all the way over to Skeletal Champion. So we get +2 to strength and dexterity. So our strength is going to become a 12, so it's not too low. While our dexterity is going to become a 15. Now, for Craft Construct, there's a lot of things here I'm seeing is more akin to having craft feats. Let's see, Craft Construct. Let's see. What is the requirements for Craft Construct again? Let this load up. Okay, so we need to be at least a 5th level caster with Craft Wondrous and Craft Magic Arms and Armor. Well, so we'll talk about a minimum of 3rd level thus far. Well, 5th level. Is there any way to get Craft Magic Arms and Armor sooner? All depends. Do you get the bonus feats here? I do not remember. Let's see. Gain Arcana, Powers. It does not say you do. You do not gain the bonus feats. Okay then. Because the Impossible Bloodline does give a good amount of abilities. We're talking about stuff thus far having to be from 5th to get Craft Magic Arms and Armor to 7th minimum. Okay. So we know now that we're going to have to be at least 7th level, which means we're going to get a unique number of abilities. So, make sure I have the spells correctly, because something a little fuzzy. I'm still waking up a little bit, so I do apologize. Yeah, I told him to spell that. There we go. So because of this, we're going to leave it at 1. So effective level is going to be that of 8. And that is a very simple note. Now, the reason why I'm saying 7th instead of, for Arcane instead, because we need to cast level of at least 5 to be able to do this, and it'd make most sense for it to actually be 7 for the cast level at this point, at least in my opinion, because he's would seem to be a lot more powerful than what he actually would look, honestly. So, this in mind, let's continue. So, I already know what some of our feats are going to be. So, we have at 5th level, craft magic arms and armor. 7th level going to be craft construct. Now, where was the feat section? Because I'm still getting used to this. Okay. So, let's go to the impossible level real quick. Let's see here. We have spontaneous generation, meaning we do get craft wondrous. Okay, so craft wondrous noted. So we get that for free straight off, even though we don't get the bonus feats. This is something because of the Bloodline powers. We don't get anything beyond 3rd though, because we have to be at least 9th level for it. So there's that. Our spell is going to be really where this actually comes into play. So, as a, we don't really have this as special ability. So spontaneous generation is not going to be a special ability. Let's go down here and make note of this though. Okay, we have spontaneous generation, and just my thing about, let's actually take note of our standard abilities as well. Okay, that'd be a special attack at that point. Okay then. We do get a unique arcana though, that constructs are susceptible to enchantment. Well, enchantment compulsion spells, well, even though they don't have a mind effect, they don't have an intelligence score, sorry. They're treated living creatures for the purpose of determining which spells affect them as well, which is very interesting. Meaning you'd be able to heal them theoretically with that of like cure spells instead of make whole, which would be very interesting to be able to do. Okay, 1st level. Knowing that he was supposed to be fairly powerful, at least in thought at this point. 1st level, well, we have 1st and 3rd open. Say spell penetration, actually. I believe I'm spelling this correctly. I want to double check this. Make sure I have this spelled correctly at least. And I forgot this doesn't stay like that. Okay. Back to up just in case. Yeah, I definitely misspelled that. So I'm going to go spell penetration now. The only character you get to see go first in the game this far, that is known at least, is Sans. So we're really not going to be dipping into improved initiative. But I think just for the fact alone of being a crafter, brew potion would be something that would be taken. Now, let's see, what's the feat requirements for this? 3rd caster level. Okay, so at 1st we pick up on spell penetration, 3rd we pick up on brew potion. Mind you, 3rd we also get for free craft wondrous thanks to spontaneous generation. Okay, 5th level picking up on craft magic arms armor. Okay, and lastly, we'll be picking up a craft construct. Now, with the entire note here, the entire thing I'm saying craft construct because I believe he'd be able to actually do so. This being what I think he'd be able to do, so... Okay, let's see. We have 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th. So, okay, then we have all the feats we'll be able to get. Now let's make note here. Our special ability right now is Distorting Touch. Sorry, Disorienting Touch. I'm still waking up. So, apologies. Back that up entirely. We only have that a limited amount of times per day, equals 3 plus the charisma modifier. Now, with this entire thing in mind, we do have some ability points we can actually put in. In total, we have 2. One at 4th, one at 8th. So let's go back to here. We could increase our charisma by 2. We can actually increase the intelligence by 2. Let's make this 18, thinking about it. Now, you do get spells at a really weird rate. If I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, yeah, it goes a lot off the sorcerer. So, that makes some things interesting. So, with this all in mind, there's no really need to make note that was originally 16. Okay, so far we have the ability to craft items, a lot of items, honestly. Between potions, constructs, being in addition to this. Magic weapons and armor, wondrous items. Okay then. So, we're not going to be using strength too much. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it does make mention of Blood Arcanist that we do get rid of some exploits. The one at 1st, 3rd, 9th, and 15th. Which means you get the Bloodline powers up to 20th, if I'm not mistaken. But we don't really get that at the moment. So with this, the Arcanist of 7th level, we having good 1st, 3rd. So we don't get our 1st until 5th. And then we get 2, so 5th and 7th. Okay then, so 5th, 7th is our Arcane exploits. For this in particular, I do have some very interesting things I believe would actually be there though. Being granted as special abilities for us to be able to just randomly do. I don't believe it'd be... Yeah, why did I read that originally as special attacks? Okay, I really need to wake up a bit more next time. Either way, let's actually just make note of this here. I do have some noted here, and I'll actually make mention of what they do. First off, we have Arcane Barrier, being our first one we're actually going to be taking. For the fact is alone, there's been a bunch of theories and shit. If you're here at this point, you don't need explanation. But we have Arcane Barrier being the first one taken. If I can spell, it'd be making things a lot easier. Yeah, whatever. There. Not battery. Okay, there it is. The Arcanist exploit Arcane Barrier. Now this is useful because as a swift action you can expend 1 point of your Arcane Reservoir to create a barrier of magical energy that protects you. In short, you get a number of temporary hit points equal to your effective Arcanist level plus your Charisma modifier for 1 minute per Arcanist level. So, there is a downside though. Each time you activate this, increase the amount of points need to be spent by 1. So that is a negative. And the temporary hit points from this ability do not stack with themselves, but in addition, using this does actually cause the total number of temporary hit points and duration to reset. So with our Charisma being that of a 14, yep, 14, that is total of 9 points. Let me see, 7, yep, 9, yeah, 9. 9 temporary hit points at 7th level. Now, we're not using items. We have our feats listed out, so we can go ahead and actually cover the 8 hit points. Think about it, yeah. Okay, so we have a total of 7 D6 hit die and a D8 undead hit die. So, with this in mind, the first hit die is always maxed out, so it's going to be 3.5 times that of 6, plus 6 from the fact of being a first level arcanist, and then we have 4.5, or in the case here it is 4 for the fact of being a Skeletal Champion, frankly, undead. Makes something a lot easier. So we have 31 at base, so 31 plus the fact is 2 times 8. You have a lot of hit points, honestly, at first level. With the aspect of being able to augment to add additional 9, that's 56. That's a lot of hit points. But doing so, let's see, what does it say about hit dice? You turn to D8s. Then add 2 racial hit dice to a total of the creatures, so 2. In doing so, this only really works for that one level, so we get 1 racial hit die. At least that's what I'm reading. For this, it does not make mention that we do not change for anything else, so that means we do get some very unique abilities at this point. If I go over to the undead section of Paizo, once again if I can spell, this does introduce a very unique thing about us. For this character at least, we do get additional benefits to our saves. In doing so, since we have 1 racial hit die in general, we have a good will save. That means it starts off with 2. Which is phenomenal at this point. Because at 7th level, we have plus 2 into both fort and reflex, but also 5 in will. Let's go ahead and write this down. Since it's only 1 racial hit die, we get this here. That becomes a 7, so that's a lot already. Undead, if I remember correctly, using this, do not have a charisma score, and in doing so, use the charisma score in place of constitution for calculating fort. Do we have a type here? We do not have a type listed, but because of this, we need to keep note that we actually get a plus 2 to our fort save. So our fort is going to be total 4, reflex of 4, and lastly a will of 8. Now that's pretty good thus far, but could be better. Undead, thinking about it, have a medium base attack bonus. Yeah, they have a medium base attack bonus, meaning you don't get any increase of base attack bonus for being a skeletal creature. You just have your Arcanist levels, and in doing so, there's not that much. You would actually go better if you went with straight Arcanist, because instead, if you really want to go to 20th level, you're going to be having 9-4. So there are some problems to this. So there's going to be some things to keep in mind for being a Skeletal Champion like this. Now, where was the base attack bonus? I lost that. Hello? And I do not see it. I've got to be half fucking blind right now. There it is. We have base attack bonus of 3. We don't have anything, size modifier or whatnot, so in total for our CMB, what is a CMB? We have D, immunities, CMB, okay. In total we're going to have that of a 4. So in the end, there's going to be a 16 for our CMD. So we have a lot of things going for us. But for our second exploit, we will be going through and actually be taking a very interesting one. As a special ability, we're going to be getting a hold of Meta Magic Knowledge. If I can actually click in the box. Metamatic knowledge for the fact I believe you'd be able to do it. I'm going off a note, so if I misspell this entirely, it's completely my fault. So we do get intensified spell. Once again, if I could tap into the fucking name. Now, for anybody who does not know what that metamagic does, it is a very interesting metamagic feat. In particular, if you would have a effective level limitation on a spell, such as like lightning bolt or fireball, for example, not just damage dealing spells, but just in general, that would cap out because of your effective caster level. It increases it by 5. You still have to have the effective caster level for it to be able to actually take into effect. Otherwise, you'd be able to increase the variable by 5. So for like lightning bolt being a maximum of 10, by 10th level, you'd be able to do 15d6 if you actually had an effective caster level equal to that. For example, for things which are very interesting for limitation purposes, you could actually do this for, like, say, heal, for example, and in doing so you would effectively be able to increase the maximum amount you would heal by effective 5 levels. In doing so, it's supposed to be 10 hit points per cast level, maximum 150. Meaning in this case, you'd be able to increase it to being 200, which is very good. And 300 for mass heal, whatnot. So we have our base abilities here. Just gonna leave that there for right now because I don't care enough to actually move it. For this in particular, we do have some very interesting skills that we can actually use. We go over to the undead. If I remember, it does not actually, does it give or does it not give additional skills? Did not see making mention there. Skills, ranks 4 plus intelligence. Okay, they actually have them here. So this we actually get climb. We get a good number of them, honestly. That a climb, disguise. I honestly am a little confused why disguise is on the list, beyond the fact it's the universal undead. We get fly, intimidate, knowledge, arcane. Let's see here, religion. At least in the games that I run, arcane and religion are primarily the two you actually have to roll to be able to actually determine if you know anything about undead creatures, a lot of outsiders mostly, because certain things are actually changed in particular for my group. But we have perception, sense motive, spellcraft, and stealth. Just from being a Skeletal Champion. So with the Arcanist, we get ourselves a handful of skills as well. We get appraise and craft. So go all the way back up here. We get all the knowledges, which for Gaster would only make sense. You can't be stupid and actually be a scientist. At least the royal scientist. Let's see. Spellcraft, use magic device. Alright, I missed some. Linguistics. I skipped over accidentally. Apologies. Profession. Almost every, and well, I don't know if every single one does have profession, but the fact is, profession is something that I haven't ever not seen, I believe, to be in the class skill list. But yeah, spellcraft, use magic device. We have spellcraft, use magic device. Okay. So, 2 plus intelligence and 4 plus intelligence for being a skeletal creature. In particular, that means we have, let me see, this 4 times out of 8 hit die. So that's 32 from being base. 2 times 7 plus 32. And lastly, that's 4. So we have 46 plus 4. So we have 50 skill points to spend. being very knowledgeable, I think there would be at least some amount of ranks inside of most knowledges. So, say hypothetically, we put 4, that's 8. Let's see here. I don't know why I put that there. That is 16. Let's go ahead and subtract 16. Oh boy. That's another 16. We are running out of skill points very quickly. And not negative 4. 4. So subtract 8. We don't have too much else we can do. You don't, either he destroyed himself or whatnot. There's not really a complete consensus. With this in particular, I don't think that you would have a high stealth. I think spellcraft would be very high to put in the 4 ranks there. The reason why I'm putting only 4 in a lot of these is because the fact that trying to verse out the character in particular is hard. I imagine you'd be able to use magical items, at least to a decent extent. And lastly, I imagine you'd have to be very perceptive to be a scientist to begin with, to notice very minor details. So let's go from the bottom to the top. So let's see that 7 for you have to advise. See 4, 11 if I actually got my total correct. Which the skills go off of, yeah. Make sure you don't have any actual modifiers from here. We do get improvement initiative, honestly. I missed that. Let me just add that in real quick. I missed that part. Okay, so we do get improved initiative. Okay, then never mind. Okay, then. A lot of these are going to be the same, so our knowledges are going to be pretty much the same, so we have an 8 in perception, and pretty much all of our knowledge skills are going to be 11. At level 8, having this high of knowledge scores means we're going to be able to roll a lot and be able to probably know what the creature is. Don't think you'd be able to fly or anything, so I just left that out. So we have mostly that of knowledge skills. Even spellcraft to an extent is knowledge skills and knowledge of spells. So with this all in mind, we're doing pretty good so far. Is there anything else that needs to be done? AC something needs to be done. Downside of this entire build here, because spells are going to have to be a requirement as well, we do not have too high of an AC. Now, a natural armor does go off of that as a skeletal creature here. So, let's see, a medium creature gets +2. Not 1, 2. So, our AC is not going to be that great. In total, our AC is going to be that of a 14. Not too good. Mind you, I don't think we'd be hit that often to begin with. Touch takes out dexterity. No, touch takes out armor, so it's a 12. And flat-footed takes out the dexterity, so that's a 12 once again. So AC is kind of bad. So, let's see. Base saves. Double check this for a moment. The saves go off of... Does not make me... Yeah, it does make me engineer. Okay then, so... There's not much more that we can actually use from here beyond the fact that we do get a standard skeleton attack. So, let's mark that down as soon as I can find the location. Melee. Okay, we do have claws, which on its own is not going to do very much. Damage is going to be that of a medium creature, so it's 1d4. Critical is going to be a simple ×2. primary, I believe, yeah, the slashing and piercing. And our base attack bonus is going to be bad, frankly. We're going to have a total of 4, which is not too good. Let's see, the ability score increases dexterity. Okay, just make him note of that. So, okay, so we don't have much when it comes down to initiative, but we do get a +4 from improved initiative, so it's a total of a 6. Being a human, we do move at 30 feet with really no armor to speak of. We don't modify that any which way. We're not going to be doing too much. The damage is going to be +1, frankly. 1d4 +1 because of having a base attack plus 12. So, we really only have the spells left. Let's go back over this one more time to double check. Do we have a damage reduction for being a skeleton? I don't remember. Guess we have one of 5/ bludgeoning, actually. So that is actually good to note. So no, 5, yeah. And we do not have an SR, but we do have an immunity. This being another good note. As soon as I find the immunity section, I'll be good. Oh man, I'm still getting way too used to this to be able to do this. Is it down here? I don't know. Okay, let's just make note of this. Okay, there's the immunity. You are immune to cold, and you do have the undead traits. So that means you get the undead immunities, mostly. So, that's a good note to keep. Okay then. So, we just have the spells left at this point. So, we can close out a lot of these tabs here. These blood arcane is open. Just for a simple note, we do get 2 traits. Which, being a proper character like this, I'm assuming it's Spark of Creation. Do I get the spells? Don't remember. Let's see. You do not get the bonus spells. Okay then. So that's the only thing that needs to be noted there. Impossible Lines is done with. We can get rid of these. Okay then. I don't know if there's an actual section for it or it just goes off Wizard and Sorcerer. So go off of this just to actually try to find it very quickly. Is it going to lead to it or is it going to be someplace else? Okay, I'm going to have to check it for you. Let's see here. Wizard, okay. See, they've just seen it, but man, they're not there anymore. Well, our DCs are going to be fairly decent, honestly, with a base of an 18. We are not going to have to worry about too much. Let's see here. Does it make any mention? I think we'll have to go back to the ability score just to determine the bonus spell slots. Yeah. By 7th, we know, ironically, 7 0-level spells. Let's see. Keep this a note. We do have 3rd level spells, which is not bad. DCs are going to be very simple, being that it's a 14. Okay then, so we have decent DCs. Spell slots per day is the thing though. The 7th level, at base we have 443. Too much ability scores, I shouldn't have closed it out. I'm a moron for this. Okay, where is that chart? Here it is. Okay, with an 18 currently inside of our intelligence score, we just get 1. Straight across. Makes things fairly easy. 5 first, 2nd, and 4 3rd. Not bad. We know 7 0-level spells. We're going to put this very simplistically. Detect magic would be a obvious at this point. Detect magic. Read magic is another obvious one that is a requirement. So it's already 2 out of 7. Honestly, I have no idea beyond this. Prestidigitation would be a very useful thing for anybody, honestly. Did I misspell this? No, but it's just right there anyways. Okay then. That is 3 out of 7. Mage Hand. Mage Hand for this entire theme. Okay, since he's the one that talks in hands, well, speaks in hands, being a hand-based caster would make sense. So delivering a lot of touch spells, ranged touch spells would make sense. And with the pure aspect of being able to, actually make items, I don't think there's many more spells here that would actually benefit. So, as a caster, we need 3 more spells. Acid Splash being one of the obvious. Now I'm going over the 0-level spells here because the fact is there's too many 0-level spells to go over. Otherwise, I do have notes of spells in particular taken, which I'll probably have to double check on. So we need 2 more 0-level spells. Okay, let's say Touch of Fatigue, because the entire hand aspect. And lastly, Message would honestly be really good. Okay, so we now have our 0-level spells. For some really good first level spells, Mage Armor being a very big plus. Being an immediate have to take for this build, so we have 5 first. Yeah. For this, if I could actually type it. Chill Touch is a first level spell which will be added to the spell list immediately. The entire fact delivering touch spells, which we can actually make note here. Because I believe Spectral Hand is not a first. Now, if anybody doesn't know, Spectral Hand is a very useful spell. In particular, it is a necromancy effect to create a disembodied incorporeal hand that can be used to deliver touch spells for you. But the fact is, you do take a d4 damage until the end of the spell's duration, and it's easily killed. But with this note, it is a 2nd level spell, sadly. So with that in mind, Brave Enfeeblement would be very good to have. True Skill, because True Skill would actually fit this entire thing very well too. If I can type. Okay, True Skill is a first level spell, and that would actually work very well out for this thematical purpose anyways. True Skill, for anybody who does not know, you add half of your effective caster level to any one singular skill check. It does have a decent duration, but the fact is it is an insight bonus. In the end, this is really not that great unless you're going into crafting a lot of items in particular. And this is one of those things that can be very useful. If you're into the entire thing, your DM allows the entire custom spells, this could actually help you make them anyways. Now, trying to figure out the last spell, Shield would be very useful as well. Did I choose? Yeah. There we go. So we have all 5 of our second level, well, first level. We have 3 second level, which is going to make things a bit harder. As Spectral Hand is a second level spell, we're going to pick up on that immediately. Having our first effective Disembodied Hand makes things a bit easier to be able to do. Now, continuing on with this here, I don't see too many other things that are going to be helpful within the second level spell list to try to mimic the actual build. Like going through it, I have a bunch of spells chosen for this mock-up that I did, which I could eventually play instead of my group, because it's not exactly the same. It's vastly different, but still is good enough to be able to actually be made note of. I don't think there's many touch spells at low level that you can actually use. Yeah, I'm not seeing many of them at least. Touch of Mercy, Touch of Idiocy. These 2 are very useful. They can be in the right situation at least. Touch of Mercy being a little bit less useful, but the fact is, Touch of Idiocy is a very useful thing. For 10 minutes per level of a duration, you can actually proceed to touch a creature, and in doing so, as you can read here, they take a negative 1d6 to their intelligence, wisdom, and charisma score. Cannot be reduced below 1. Trying to convince people to do what you want would be very useful for this, and doing so is actually very useful if you're trying to actually create monsters, I would imagine, and doing so someone get enraged and out of control, I imagine. So this would be very useful. But back on the hunt, because we do have only 1 second level spell. So we need 2 more. Let's see. Do we have any touch spells here? Frigid Touch. That is a very useful thing to have to begin with. So, Frigid Touch being a decent spell, and doing so, as you can see here, is an instantaneous spell, and in doing so, the creature you touch takes 46 cold damage and causes them to become staggered for 1 round. If this attack is a critical hit, it treats the staggering condition as 1 minute. Now, this has progressed far enough, we want to go more exact. It'd be a thing of you'd be taking improved crit for ranged touch. And then so your touch spells would be that of a 19 to 20 instead of times 2. So, with that in mind, we're going to be taking Touch of Idiocy and Frigid Touch. Yes. And the last one. Now, hypothetically speaking, one thing I would change between this in particular, I would drop True Skill entirely from the build here, and instead I'd be picking up on some more useful things, such as like Resist Energy, for example. 2/3. Now, at third, for third level spells, let's see. What level did we get third? Third at sixth. In doing so, we get how many? Yeah, 1. Okay then. Heroism would be a really good thing to take. With this in mind, heroism and I would believe versatility. You'd have to be able to travel fairly quickly to be able to do things, so heroism and fly, honestly. Unless there is another spell of the touch variety that we can actually get of third. Maybe another hand spell would be useful. But I don't think we're going to have too many spells like this. The most of them are going to be found in the Necromancy School. But beyond that, you're not going to be able to find much. Force Punch. We really want to get Technical Touch spell. It's not one of the best ones to have, honestly. Twilight Knife is really good. Just scroll past that. It'd be really good to have. But Necromancy here, like I said, is going to be like one of the only schools you're really going to get a consistent number at higher levels. Vampiric Touch. Now that is phenomenal. Now, for people who do not know, Vampiric Touch is a very simple spell. You effectively inflict 1d6 per effective cast level you possess, maximum 10 damage on a successful touch attack. Can be critted, but that's nothing to be concerned about because you're really not going to be using it to crit that often. In particular, a creature that you touch and deal damage with, you're able to heal an amount equal to the damage which you're able to deal, but no more than the maximum hit points they have. So hypothetically speaking, they have 20 hit points, you do 30. Instead, you would get 20. Well, I'm saying they have 20, you do 30, you'd be able to get effectively 20 temporary hit points even though you did 30. So, we have a good number of things to keep in mind. Okay then, so we don't have to worry about spell slots for this, so let's go over this before we actually wrap this up real quick. Gaster, the 7th level Blood Arcanist with 1 level in Skeletal Champion, thanks to it being a template. Neutral, because it's the only thing I can actually determine. Being medium-sized human, because it's the best thing I can guess. Strength of 12, Dex of 15, no Constitution to speak of. Intelligence of 18, which is phenomenal at this point. And I kind of screwed that up a little bit. It's a 12 for Wisdom and 14 for Charisma. We do have a decent number of things to go over still. First off, we do get a very unique ability, being that of our Arcane Reservoir. We don't really need to worry about how much this gives, because it's actually a static thing, mostly. 3 plus half your effective Arcanist level is a lot. But, let's continue. We do have a decent score, honestly. Being an undead, we do not use our Constitution, we use our Charisma modifier for hit points, so we have a decent number of hit points. On average, we're able to actually have 52, I believe, give or take, maybe more, 56. And in doing so, we're having a lot of hit points. Our ACs are poor. Very much poor. But the sheer aspect alone that we can actually modify this thanks to Mage Armor and Shield, we can actually have a decent AC. Being immune to cold is a very useful thing, in particular making us take less damage against most common effects. But also, with the damage reduction against bludgeoning, we're able to, at low levels, survive a lot easier. Our save is a little subpar in comparison to what we would like because of not having magical items, but they're really good for what they are for not being magical. Having 4 and 4 in Reflex is phenomenal, but with a Wisdom or Will save of 8, that is better than what most average characters could have at this level. The base attack bonus of 3, you're not going to hit that often, and in doing so, your CMD and CMB are both not going to be that high. With this all in mind, your initiative being a 6 thanks to Skeletal Champion, otherwise it would be normally 2. Moving at 30 feet is fairly good. Having claws are great if you can actually hit. That's the problem, if you can hit. Otherwise, they're pretty much worthless to you. having a decent number of skills, but in doing so, you're not really going to be able to work inside a game too much as a social party member. You're going to be mostly the person who knows everything about the creature you need to face, and in doing so being able to craft items thanks to the crafting feats and support the group for actually being able to get the job done. In doing so, making magical items for them to be able to actually defeat the creature in particular in a standard face this creature, get gold kind of experience. Thanks to a couple different things here we have, being Distorting Touch. It really won't matter too much. Distorting Touch does not do too much for you in this case, but the fact alone being able to actually get Craft Wondrous for free at 3rd level is phenomenal. Plus being able to actually get a couple different things. Now, Improved Initiative is great and all, given via that of the Skeletal Champion, but the biggest thing we get for free is actually because of Metamatic Knowledge, being that of Intensified Spell. In doing so, certain spells, such as being Rave Enfeeblement, which you have on here, if I remember correctly, Rave Enfeeblement, we are able to effectively increase the maximum amount of strength damage we deal. Because the thing is about that spell, even if the creature succeeds in the save, they will still take damage from it. Effectively, it's 1d6 plus 5, eventually. And in doing so, if they succeed, it's halved. But in the case, eventually, if you wanted to with Intensified Spell, you're able to effectively get a hold of a Rave Enfeeblement that could be doing an average, let me see this, of 13 on a failed save and 6 on a successful save. And it lasts for a good while, so it's pretty useful for a debuff spell. Also, all DCs, like I said, are pretty decent. We have a decent number of spell slots per day, which are pretty good. With our zero spells being fairly simplistic, being like Acid Splash, Detect Magic Message, whatnot, it's fairly good. But with the aspect of having that Spectral Hand makes things very interesting. It lets us be able to deliver touch spells from fairly far away, with Frigid Touch, Chill Touch, and Vampiric Touch being the primary 3 that we'll be using. Touch of Idiocy being more of a thing of, I'm going to debuff you to make you fail my saves more often. It will give you a good round amount of decent damage, plus Chill Touch actually works on undead, as a note. Mind you, will be taking the d4 damage. Between that of Heroism and your buff spells, such as like of Mage Armor and Shield, your AC is not going to be too poor, and with Arcane Barrier, you're going to be able to survive the damage you would normally take from Spectral Hand and then some. Being able to, as a swift action, every round being able to refresh it for your temporary hit points, which are equal to that of 9 at this point. But every time you use it, you do increase the reservoir requirement to be able to activate it. We do have 2 traits though we need to pick, which is a very interesting thing. Spark of Creation being a very useful, and I gotta say this very, very loosely, because it's all build specific. Like for this build, it'll be very useful to have. Spark of Creation, in note, as here, gives you +1 on 1 craft skill of your choosing. Which in this case, we don't have a craft skill, so it's going to be quite static. And when crafting magical items, you get a little reduction of cost. It's reduced by 5%, which is phenomenal. So let's write this down. Spark of Creation being a magic trait, this is a little bit of a problem. Did you log me out? Log me out. Moment. So, hello? Yeah, I guess it's gonna have to be what I call it for now. Things are fucking up. But in actuality, for spells I would actually choose, there are a slight bit of different ones I would choose, but in doing so, these are the ones that are really good for fitting the character idea. Now for traits, Anatomist would be really good if you want to actually get a additional bonus to attacking when you roll to confirm critical hits. Otherwise, really, it's kind of open. For taking on a magic trait, it's kind of a out, if you think about it. Because there's so many different things you could actually use, like, hypothetically speaking, if you ultimately choose to take that focused mind, you get an additional bonus to your concentration checks, which is phenomenal. Arcane Temper giving you a +1 to initiative and concentration checks is phenomenal as well. But the last trait I don't really have anything in mind, actually. So if this being a problem or not is okay entirely. But with this all in mind, I do think this was pretty much a success to actually build it to the best of my abilities. If anybody has a critique on this, please do make mention, because the fact is, there are so many different ways for people to build characters of any genre, frankly, within this game system. It's one problem I have with it, honestly. There's too many options sometimes. With the sheer number of options you have, it makes things sometimes a little too easy, and then some things a little bit harder than they have to be. But with that, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you wish to. Let me know of any character you would like to have me create, because that would be very interesting. Give me any critique you want, because it's the only way I'm going to be able to improve, not only building the characters, but also my channel. So, once again, thank you all for watching. Hope to see you in another video.